me actually record this.
Oh, okay,
and then
sure.
I'll wait a few seconds. I'll give an intro. Cool. Awesome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another session of the LlamaIndex webinar series. Today, we're really excited to feature some awesome projects built by members of the LlamaIndex community, whether using LlamaIndex within their application or integrating with LlamaIndex. And today, you'll find a range of applications ranging from kind of the question answering chatbots all the way to agents and all the way to text generation for a very specific use case. And so we're very excited to feature Kartik today, who will be talking about Albus, Eduardo, who will be talking about Xpress.ai, and Atal, who will be talking about a new hackathon project that they built called ImmigrantFirst.ai. And we'll first start with Kartik. We'll probably do around 10 to 15 minutes for each presentation. We'll leave some time at the end if there's any questions. And then, if we finish early, then that's awesome. But we'll try to time box this within around like 50 to 55 minutes. So without further ado, Kartik, take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro. Just going to quickly share my screen. Can you all see my screen? All good? Perfect. Okay, so this is me, Kartik. I'm demoing Albus, which is an AI teammate for workplace search, conversational bot right now inside Slack and Chrome extension. Very soon, Microsoft Teams, web, Facebook Workplace, wherever work happens. This is me. I did my master's from Carnegie Mellon in machine learning back in 2012, 2014. I run this company known as Springworks. We are remote, bootstrap, profitable, 200 plus people. We basically build category defining work, culture products across, have clients across India, US, and other countries. And I've been doing this for a while. So we are, powered by OpenAI, GPT-4. No surprises there. We started on GPT-3, then moved to 3.5, and now on, 4. And we use LlamaIndex. That's the backbone of, the entire application. So the problem we are solving is, especially in today's kind of workplace, you have multiple tools. You have a Slack, you have a Notion, you have your Jira, you have your Confluence, you have your Google Docs. Then you have your CRM, then you have your support software, stuff for that. So there's a lot of information and very hard to kind of collaborate across all of these tools. They don't really talk to each other. There's no single, universal search. You don't really have a knowledge base. Companies move very, very quickly. Everyone starts up, with some type of handbook, then very, hard to kind of keep it updated. It becomes a living document and almost everyone has to spend a significant amount of time to, update it. Most questions get asked in Slack. They don't get translated to your Notion knowledge base or a Google Docs knowledge base. So information is always, it's kind of scattered across all of these places. So what we have, kind of done with Albus is pull in all these different, information from all of these integrations. That's where Llama Hub, comes in. We were looking at other, options. There's companies like Merge and Unified and API Deck and whatnot. But Llama Hub was this open source package, which kind of did, helped us kind of get to market very quickly. I think now has around 40, 50, connectors. So we have everything which Llama Hub supports and plus, some more. So Google Drive and Notion and, Jira and Wikipedia and website and whatnot. So that's the first thing. Then you have your multilingual. So obviously with GPT-4, that was a big thing. 3.5 did not really work out for non-English languages, especially for Chinese and Japanese and German and whatnot. 4 works very well. So we have lots of users from Asia. Then we've also, obviously as the entire Gen AI concept, we have a chatbot which works inside Slack and a Chrome extension as of now. This is how it looks. Help me with a few courses on Udemy, LinkedIn. It can do typical AI stuff, but can also, get from your company wiki. We save HR time, so your HRs don't have to kind of spend time on questioning, answering, ticketing. And there's literally tools like Jira Service Desk and all built for this. But with generative AI, you are actually able to not just take in a ticket, but also answer and perform actions on it, right? And analytics and all of those things kind of come later. Just multiple teams across the company. Right now we're seeing mostly sales and marketing and customer support use it very well in terms of their handbooks. Everyone has a knowledge base, like your customer facing knowledge base, and sometimes the internal teams also need to be trained on that. So that's where we're seeing more use cases. But over time, I think I'm excited to see around design when you have your multimodal image and things like that which come up at some point. Then code, pretty limited use case for us. People end up using Copilot and other extensions on their IDEs as of now. All the typical integrations, you have your Slack, Google Drive, Notion, all that stuff. And how do we use it? Just a quick thing. Like there's a code example. This is your company wiki example. What is LSA? It's a policy in our company. So here you can say from your company wiki, LSA stands for Lifestyle Spending Account. All employees are entitled to 2,000 rupees per month. It covers expenses as internet expenses, mobile, prepaid, postpaid, food, gym, whatnot, right? So things like that. So you can kind of see it is coming in from your either AI or your company wiki. You can kind of toggle between the two. We use the function routing, which is this newest feature of 3.5 and 4, where we say categorize this type of query, right? Is this your a support question for Albus? Is it a company wiki question or is it an AI question? And then we kind of let it decide which one to choose with. And then we answer, right? Now, obviously, sometimes it gets it wrong, and that's why we have a switch, to AI or switch to, company wiki. This is the tech stack at a very high level, right? Vector database, we use Pinecone, we use Elasticsearch, TypeSense. Then OpenAI, LlamaIndex, that's really the backbone of everything, right from your creating embeddings to chunking to creating the indexes to query, to kind of even evaluating and stuff like that, right? We use re-ranking of Cohere. We use their API at the end, but just before sending it to OpenAI to answer, and all the parsers connectors, right? So that's a very, very high level, kind of tech stack. And I'll get into the demo. Let me just change my screen share to Slack. Can you see my Slack? Perfect. So yeah, so this is how it looks. So this is a channel which we have set up. You can obviously DM Albus as well. Any types of questions, but I will just show you in the channel. Oops. Yeah. So here, Abhijit is asking, what is my vacation budget now for this year? So you can see it's coming up from your company wiki. It's giving you the answer as per the policy. And it's actually giving you the source where it's coming from, right? So this is a Google Doc in this case, right? So in this case, it's coming from 2 different sources. So both of them are linked. So sometimes if you want to get into more information and you have to, you want to kind of understand or read more about the policy, you can actually click on it and hyperlinks to that section as well, right? And for PDFs, we give you the page numbers, right? So that's also a LlamaIndex, feature. So what is LSA? That's an example I showed before. Things like, what if I get sick? How do I apply for a sick leave, without notice? Do I need to give a reason? All of these things, right? So it kind of gives you the answer. So you can see here, actually this links to Slack, our Slack channel, which is our main general channel. And if I click on it, I deep link to that exact message, and it tells you the more information about the answer there. So that's really powerful because sometimes you want to go and understand that. We also have like upward, downward. So this becomes like a feedback loop. So if I upward, it's kind of says, hey, I was helpful. If I downward, it will kind of ask me, I could escalate to the admin. I can even generate an AI answer. So we've seen, Albus kind of answer 7 out of 10 times as of now based on the data. So in those 3 cases, people actually end up, escalating or creating a ticket for the admin to go answer. And then what we do is we take that answer, we index it, and that becomes a way of training Albus to kind of answer that next time. Same thing, we're doing an offsite in Jaipur in India. So this, I asked this question. It said the location for the alcohol, drinks dinner night is Asteria. This is where it comes from, right? So exactly from that channel, the exact location. So this is this is the post with the photos and all of that. And you can kind of see sometimes it gets it wrong, right? So I said, how do I reschedule my flights? So here the routing itself, went to AI, which is, for some reason did not pick up from this channel, even though this channel had that information. So this is a case where, Albus failed in a way to, give the right answer, because I was looking for a, answer from the company wiki and not, from the internet, right? So this is just saying, go to the airlines website, go to your manage booking, stuff like that, which is not really helpful, because what I wanted is go to this channel and somewhere it says, how do I reschedule the flights? Because we have a travel agent to do that, right? So that's a case where Albus gets it wrong. So in this case, the routing itself was wrong, but in some cases the answer does not come up. So that's the reason why we've kind of expanded. We started with the embeddings first with Pinecone, like a vector DB search. Then we started doing text search with TypeSense Elasticsearch. And then, this latest release from, Llama around knowledge graph is what we are working on now. That's in our dev. So hopefully we'll go to production soon. So I think these three combined, and then send it to go here for re-ranking, I think our search results should be very good. Then things like, where do I upload the bill for the food reimbursement? This is how you do it. This is the handbook. You can actually click on it, stuff like that. So, that's how it works. And we've added some more, features where you could, now just do, if you want to force, sometimes skip the routing, and that you want to get it from the wiki, you can do this as well, right? What is the GST number? Which is like a unique number, companies in India have. Or even, let me see. What is the address for our USA office? Yeah, so it got the answer. It's told you the source. You can now then kind of upward, downward, right? Same thing here. Let's see. Sometimes it takes a minute or two. Yeah, so did not get the answer, even though. So I'll show you this document, but it's interesting. Was not able to bring it up. It was not exactly listed, the address, but it was in a, let me just show you. So there are cases, like here, if you could see, the address is there and it says USA, but it does not say explicitly this is the USA office. So somewhere the embedding or the re-ranking, or OpenAI, failed, or the evaluation failed as well. Something, there's multiple layers of failure at this point. So we just need to, I think as we added more steps in the process of query, we added more steps for failure as well. So that's where I think, there's a lot of scope for improvement, for us, and obviously overall the AI space as well. Then other, cool things is, you can just show some very long thread. Yeah, you can kind of go in, you can summarize this as well. So you will see, summarize it. So all that typical, stuff, which kind of send it to OpenAI, it will give you the answer as well here in some point. Then, we have a whole, dashboard around it on how do you kind of answer stuff like that. One second, let me just shift to my Chrome again. Yeah, so you sign in with Slack as of now. Over time, we'll have other logins as well. This is how it looks. So, you can add in any custom documents. You can do Google Drive, picks it up from your Google Drive, all that stuff. So all, connected. Then you have your internet, you have your Jira, you have your Slack, you have your Confluence, Notion, all that stuff. And then this is where you can see, questions which have, been escalated. You could, you can kind of actually see the answer, and you should be able to go fix the answer as well. All that typical stuff here. Yes, that's pretty much from my side.
Sweet. Perfect. Thanks so much for the presentation. As we're, if there's any questions from the audience, feel free to drop them in the chat. In the meantime, I do have one question. I think this will actually help clarify things for the audience as well. You mentioned you're using both vector search as well as like text search through stuff like TypeSense. So could you maybe describe like the pros and cons of each and how maybe you could use them together to actually help improve retrieval?
Sure. So I think vector search works very well when you want to do similar words, because embeddings work in a way where similar words have similar embeddings, right? So I think vector search works very well for those things, and speed is also fast in terms of querying from. We use Pinecone, but there are other options as well. But in cases, sometimes you want the exact keyword as well. Like there was an example where someone wanted to search for the word Figma, in the design, right? Or in this case, the word USA for the office address. And that's where I think text search generally sometimes does better, because you don't want similar words, you want the exact word. And we kind of do both now, and then we do a combination with a re-rank with Cohere's API. I think there are other options, but Cohere is pretty good at this point to find. So we do a top K on both, say, and then kind of send around 30, 35, and then you ask it to give us 3 based on the chunk size. Then you send it to OpenAI. Over time, you want to build a knowledge graph, as in not over time, actually. Next week, we'll do a knowledge graph as well, where like say the USA and India will be connected because they're both offices, right? In this case, or your Figma, or like 2 projects will be connected, in some way, and we could use the knowledge graph query as well, and then all 3 get combined with a Cohere rank, and then that gives us the final top 3, top 4 based on the context size. So we are using GPT-4 8K, so that's the limitation from a context size. We tried 16K as well, but that actually gave worse results, even though it was higher context size.
Great, thank you. And then the last question, I think, from the audience, Rohit asks, can you please explain how Jira use cases integrate with LlamaIndex?
Yes, so if I remember, I think Llama has it, but I'll have to double check. But yeah, so we built a Jira connector, so you can kind of do an auth, connect to your Jira instance, and so things like what's the status on this ticket, how many tickets were deployed last week, how can you give me the acceptance criteria on this ticket for Albus knowledge graph improvement, right? Stuff like that. What's the latest on this ticket? How many, is there a pull request attached to it? So all those, type of things is possible. So this is just workplace search as of now, and we are setting up the, groundwork to, go to actions, right? Which is setting up Google Calendar meetings, updating a ticket from new to done, updating, doing a PR review, pull request review, updating, stage a deal in CRM to closed, or lost, right? Things like that. So that's the next step, right? First step is getting all the information in. Second step is now with OpenAI's function capability, kind of letting us know what functions to call when, and actually doing the actions, right? So it's no longer just workplace search, but also becoming your personal EA across these different tools.
Sweet. Great. I think we're out of time there. Thanks, Kartik, for the awesome presentation. And we'll transition over to Eduardo for Xpress.ai.
Okay, thanks. So that was a cool presentation. So let me get set up here real quick. Let me share my screen, and I'll do a little overview of kind of Xpress.ai and what we do, and then move on to mainly a demo of what you can do with the tools. So let me do that. So I only have like an investor presentation, so ignore that. Yeah, well, I'll give you the gist of it. So yeah, so let me tell you guys a little bit about Xpress.ai. So AI agents are an interesting thing, and making demos are kind of really easy, but doing them at scale is pretty hard. And there's a lot of reasons for this. And the AI agents that I'm talking about here aren't always necessarily just conversational agents. There can be many other things that you want to do. But for example, you want to eval things. Once you have the agent, how do you evaluate it good? I kind of learned recently that LlamaIndex has some tools for this. So I'm going to spend some more time integrating those things. We also have fine tuning. So that's a kind of big question right now. Like, how do you fine tune your agents to their specific customers, right? The customers that are using that agent, how do you fine tune them? That's going to be very interesting to look at in the future. Also rate limits. It's kind of possible that you might run into certain customers that just use up all your tokens very quickly. And that can cause blackouts for other customers if you're doing things in a way where, like right now, people get around this by just asking everybody to give them their open API key, right? And then there's also security policies, right? Not every company is okay with sending their data to OpenAI, particularly if they have like patents and things like that, or if it's like a hospital and there's HIPAA compliance issues that they have to worry about. And then there's also integrations, and LlamaIndex can do a lot of integrations on the data ingestion side, but you also have action side things with AI agents. And then finally, how do you deploy it? Like, a lot of people are kind of doing these demos on Replit, but Replit isn't going to be like the end kind of deployment that you have for your app. And so what we're doing at Xpress.ai is to enable developers to make amazing AI agents, right? We want to give them solutions to all of these problems in one place. Yeah, we've been working on this for a while, and I can show you more or less what it looks like. But in general, the idea is that we have large language models and we want to give them to you in a way that is abstractable. You can kind of choose which one you want to use based off of your needs, right? And by you, I'm talking about like the end user customer. If that customer is a large enterprise, but they have a Azure subscription, then they might not have some issues with using OpenAI, for example, but others might, and they will want to use Google. Or even for the most stringent security policies, that want to use like an open source model that can run locally, like RWKV, which is my favorite, or Vicuna. And then you have vector databases. So you can use Pinecone, you can use ChromaDB or Vecto if you need something that's local. Vecto just happens to be a vector database that Xpress.ai did before. And is available. And then also agent frameworks like LangChain, Baby AGI, and Hugging Face agents, right? These are kind of frameworks for building agents. And for me, I don't think of these as the end goal, right? From a useful agent perspective, these are the building blocks that you use to create a real useful agent. And then finally, integrations, right? So, you don't want to only kind of access Slack messages or Gmail messages. You might want to send Gmail messages or create a Google document. And these are the kind of integrations that I'm talking about here. And so Xpress.ai is that platform. So let me show you, like a kind of demo of what it looks like. So right now, if you go to our platform, there's still many things to be done, but you can kind of create a project which will be like a space for your agent. And in that project, you'll have a Jupyter Lab session that you can use to define tools and workflows in a drag and drop manner. So I'm going to open a session here. and use the easy agent kind of toolkit that we are currently working on. So the drag and drop tool that we have here, you can see has a lot of kind of integrations already. And what you can do is you take these components and you can drag them onto the canvas and hook them up together. And the way this is kind of working is in the style of Unreal Engine blueprints. So if you're familiar with Unreal Engine, this will look very familiar, but if you're not, Unreal Engine blueprints is a way that game developers and like game designers, people who aren't really used to coding, add logic into their games. We use the same kind of style. So there's triangles, and that controls the flow of execution, and then you hook things together. It makes it really easy for kind of like end users to make custom pipelines that they want. So for example, here I added it to my Discord bot, and now my Discord bot has the ability to use Hugging Face agents to scan business cards and put the information onto Google Drive, like so. And I think that it is a very interesting kind of future of AI agents, not ones where you can only just talk to it, but ones where it can actually do work. So you can ask it to make a big report for you or scour the internet for things. And I'll show that in a little bit. But yeah, so Xpress.ai itself, we're focused on that privacy aspect, right? A lot of people want to use OpenAI right now, but they can't because it's like, barred or banned in their company. Particularly in Japan, this is a thing that happens a lot. And then having the flexibility to deploy to cloud or local. So what I'm going to show you is actually all running on my laptop, with the exception of OpenAI, which I'm using. And then also that learning part. So this is the future, but we're actively looking at ways we can gather the experience from the agent based off of whether it was successful or not, and fine-tune the LLM so that it makes less mistakes in the future. And I think for customers, like from an agent developer's perspective, once your agent has learned from experience, that customer is going to have a really hard time migrating away from that agent to another because they're going to lose all that experience. So yeah, the rest is more like a kind of pitch kind of thing. So I'll skip this and we'll maybe get to the demo. But we've been getting a lot of stars on GitHub recently for the XAI GPT Agent Toolkit. If you are on GitHub and this looks cool, please head over to there and give it a star and let me know what you want to do. And that'd be cool. So anyway, so we won't need to go into the market, although I do think it's kind of interesting to think of this in an interesting way that right now there's like a company like Fiverr where you hand off tasks to other people, but there's also Zapier where you can automate tasks, but you have to like program it yourself. And what I'm trying to accomplish at Xpress.ai is agents that kind of can do things automatically, but you don't have to program them. You just kind of describe what it is you want to do. So let me go over to our platform over here to show you what it's like. And I can also show the integration with LlamaIndex. So to create, let me create a new thing really here so we can just see it kind of working. So as you can see, this is essentially Jupyter Lab, right? So anything that you could do in Jupyter Lab, you can do here, right? So you can open up and edit Python code. You can also use notebooks. But in circuits, you have now, with the circuits extension, you now have the ability to like drag and drop things. You can look at it here, or you can just drag from a triangle into empty space, and then you can search for a component. So if I do like a print, I can print some sort of string. Just drag away from message and it'll ask me what kind of variable I want. So if I do like, quote hello world and submit that, I'll get this hello world node. And then if I connect this to the finish, I can now save and run this thing. And then it's running over here. And this output has the same, it's running as a Jupyter Lab kernel. So you have the ability to use kind of the Jupyter Lab kind of visualizations or tooling in here as well. So now it's kind of generated this code and it's run it. The interesting thing from my perspective, there's two things. One, the compiling of this program, so this one's called Untitled 3, I think. You'll notice it's actually a Python file, right? So you can take this Python file and the virtual environment and the XAI components folder, you move it to another server and you can run it. So that allows you to kind of easily distribute this into another kind of environment. And that's kind of important for the future of like the deployments and things like that. And also, let's say I don't like the way print works. Well, I can right click on it and go to OpenScript and I can edit the code for print right here. So I can, for example, add these to make it a little bit more exciting, right? Because this is a demo. And then if I run it again, you'll now see it says hello world with the exclamation points. So when you're using circuits, you're never limited by the library here, right? If you need something new, you can, right click on a node and edit it, or, just add another component, because a component, if we open the script really quick, is a class, right? That has a set of in-args and out-args. And these in-args and out-args become nodes in the graph that you can connect to. And then you just have an execute method that kind of does whatever it is you want to do to the out-args from the in-args, essentially. So that's, like basic stuff. What about more interesting things? So one of the interesting things that we've been looking at recently is incorporating LlamaIndex in here. So for example, in here, I have an interesting LlamaIndex kind of integration that I'm using, which is using the Gmail reader. So if I take the Gmail reader and then I look for something, so I can say, I don't know, let me look for Jerry Liu. I think that might work, although I might out some other Jerry Lius. I don't think I know any others. But anyway, so I'll do that. And then for each of those items, I'm going to get the metadata and I'm going to print it, right? So it's a very simple thing that I can just save and run here. And yeah, then it's going to run. It's going to search my Gmail for that and load the data. And, you can see the snippets of things, right? So we were recently looking at this webinar and we were kind of talking about the webinar. So you can see that that actually works. So the interesting thing that I think this works is, or what interesting thing about what you can do with this comes when you start adding the GPT agent toolkits, utilizing actors and things like that. So even though I do have the Easy Agent Toolkit that I don't have installed here, I also have a GPT Agent Toolkit itself, unlike the Easy Agent Toolkit, is a low-level one where you can actually use it to create like actors. So for example, if we look into the GPT Agent Toolkit, there's an example of baby AGI. And so this is essentially baby AGI coded completely in a graphical manner. And essentially, instead of using Pinecone, it uses a NumPy memory that I added, so that way you don't need a server for it. And then you can see there's this task executor agent. I've added the ability to run tools. So here it has like a Python executor. And then the result of the executor agent goes to the creator agent, and then the creator agent, the task creator agent, sorry, creates tasks of things to do, and then the prioritizer agent kind of re-ranks those based off of the priority of what it needs to do next. We sleep for 5 seconds, and then we loop again, right? So this is all just like a loop that just happens over and over. So based off of this, we can actually create anything. So I have in my Discord over here a agent. So let's go to, I guess, Zybo test. So Zybo is a Discord bot that I have on my website. It starts with an X. Aibo is like a sidekick in Japanese. But anyway, you can ask it to do things. And the logic for Zybo is like a stress test that I have for circuits. So all the logic is contained in this circuits file. And it kind of has some interesting capabilities, like using LlamaIndex if it needs to. So I have this email search tool that I created, so it can search my emails if I ask it to search my emails. Then I also have another tool, I think, up here called Add Row to Spreadsheet. So if it needs to add rows to a specific spreadsheet, it can do that. Yeah, then I have an image generator that uses OpenAI instead of the default. So that shows how to override the things. Yeah, and then after that, I have the logic to kind of create the Hugging Face agent and trigger work on Discord messages. So when people join, or if I ask it to do something, it'll do things. It does take a little bit to run, so I won't run any here. But for example, one of the things I like to use it for is to generate images, but there's also ones like this, where I can say, in this image, which I have to call document for reasons, and I say, like, what is the name in this business card, and it tells me the name. So that's pretty cool. I can also ask it, extract the amount in yen from this receipt and put it into the spreadsheet, and it does it, and it's pretty cool. Although my own logic is why this is currently set as 2 cells, but that's like simple things that can be fixed with stuff. So yeah, very cool stuff, and that's Xpress.ai. Happy to answer any questions if people have any.
Awesome. Thanks, Eduardo. This is a great presentation, and the fact that I personally found it super cool that you basically just created all like baby AGI, or like an entire basically functioning agent within a graphical interface. And so I think that's awesome. And we have time for about one question. I think Shane Yu asks, is some part of this similar to Laneflow, which is another UI-based project for creating agents and chains?
Yeah, I think there's when I started this, there has always been like kind of these drag and drop UIs for doing AI. Like Azure ML Studio is like the first one that I used in particular. So it's not a unique concept by any means. But what I think is unique about us is that, one, the flow of execution is explicitly defined by these triangles. And I think that was very successful in Unreal Engine, because it means that there's no ambiguity on what order things are going to be executed in, which turns out to be pretty important when you need it to do something, right? If you're just like hooking everything together to make a chatbot, it really doesn't matter, in the end, what order everything was run in. But in here, the focus is more on doing things, right? So I don't really care about having an agent that I can use to look into like the HR documents and answer questions, like in the previous demo. That's a totally cool use case. I don't see people using Xpress.ai to do that. What I see people using Xpress.ai for is to, whenever there's a customer support email, for example, if it's something that, I don't know, let's say it's some sort of IT thing where somebody's asking to create a new user, then this agent would figure out how to do that and create the user. That way you don't need to, you don't need to do that by hand, for example, right? So it's more like I want it to be something that's used for work, for automations in a new way in this world of agents. And then the other thing is how customizable it is, because I can always right click and open the script and change anything I want. I'm never limited by what is included out of the box. So I think that's pretty unique. And this is all open source. So if you want to, try it out, just go to circuits.io, and then you can, pip install it and then have it, Jupyter Lab environment. The company itself is going to be mainly focused on, like making money from hosting these things rather than the actual drag and drop tool.
Super cool. All right. Thanks, Eduardo, for your time. And next, we'll pass it to Atal, who will be talking about ImmigrantFirst.ai. And just for some context, both Eduardo and Atal were hackathon winners of a hackathon that happened a few weeks ago, the ABC hackathon by Norwest Venture Partners that LlamaIndex was also proud to sponsor. And so Atal, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry. And beautiful presentations before. I don't think I would be able to do as they did because we are just like more of a hackathon idea and in the early stages. But today, what I would like to show is what we presented at hackathon in terms of what things why we started with Immigrant First, and also show you kind of like a demo of what already exists so that you have idea and then we can take questions. I'm hoping a lot of people on this call are probably immigrants as well. And being an immigrant is kind of tricky when you are away from your country and trying to build a life and then dealing with all the laws. And I know Kartik is still in Bangalore, so maybe he wants to come here and then we can help him. Immigrant First is more of a mindset of looking at the world from a perspective of immigrant as the first priority rather than the third priority in the world, especially when we are looking towards a global world and we are having technology going in every country. So what we are doing with Immigrant First so that people can also actually navigate the world in easier and easier way. So it is to help immigrants live their dreams. This started as as we shared the hackathon idea, as Jerry mentioned. We had a small team. It's just like a bunch of friends. So I am Atal, immigrant. I have been in the US. I live in San Francisco, work in product, and I graduated with master's from UCSB and IIT Kharagpur. Moved from India 5+ years ago. Then my friend Arafat, he worked for Shopify and built scalable products there, and he's also from IIT Kharagpur. Then Bhaskar, who was there with me on the hackathon day that day, he studied at IIT Delhi, computer science, and he's also an immigrant. And Utkarsh, who has experience of working with American Express and also from IIT Delhi. So what we thought is like, let's just see how we can solve our problem. And if we are able to solve our problem, how we would be able to scale it. So let's go down to what the problem is. If you understand how immigration or any needs of humans work, it goes into this Maslow hierarchy of needs, and the psychological needs kind of come as a basic need before you go to this realizing your true potential. And when you are in a new country, and if you are trying to create more and more value and live up to your potential, if you are struggling with your basic need of, would I be able to stay in this country or not? Would I need to move? Would I be able to do what I want to do? You would always be challenged at the basic place, and you won't be able to live up to your true potential. And that's where I was realizing that why taking care of immigrants' needs of being able to live safely is becoming more and more important. So I'm calling this as an immigrant disaster. So currently there is a worker visa, H-1B visa, and if you lose your job on H-1B, then you have just 60 days to find a job. And a lot of tech employees are struggling to find job in 60 days because it requires a lot of processes for an employer to go through as well. And this is just such a short period of time. And there is a huge cost associated in doing an H-1B transfer as well. The second is if you are a student in US and you wanna like stay here, you have 12 to 36 months to actually figure out your next visa. Otherwise, you would have to leave the country. And all these students come on huge loans. And O1 visa, which is more about how to help people to create companies. This is very hard to understand given the complexion of the law and how subjective this is. So what is the situation here is employers don't want to hire immigrants, and immigrants are having a hard time building their own companies here as well. These are a couple of tweets which we saw recently coming from Paul G and Sam Altman about one of the easiest policy wins I could imagine for the US is to reform high-skilled immigration. People want to be in America. This is a gift, and embracing them is the key. And Paul G also mentioned that American can pick any smart people anywhere because people want to come here. Now, these tweets also tell you that how less control even these people have on the policy, including us. Like, we don't have control on policy. They don't have control on policy. But what we want to do is, with the limitations that we know, how can we help immigrants? So that's where we were like, how generative AI can be helpful and what are the problems people are facing. So EB1A is more of a green card visa and O1 is more of an exceptional visa. These processes currently are very expensive. So it costs around $15,000 to get EB1A or O1 application filed through a lawyer. It takes a while to get the application filed. So people need to spend a lot of time with the lawyer to actually write the whole documentation together. And the third problem is people do not know that they can do some of these things self-filing, like they can file on their own. And USCIS has a good history about approving self-filing applications as well. So as I'm on H1B and I was like struggling with this problem myself in living in San Francisco, I was like, let me start solving it for myself. And as I was solving it for myself, I was slowly realizing how much value generative AI can actually create in this area. And that's where we started considering, like, there's a persona of a San Francisco techie who is currently on H1B and they're having a hard time being able to be at peace, knowing that they might have to leave the country in 60 days. So how can we solve the problem for this thing? So we divided our product into 4 categories. First is the evaluation. So based on your resume and LinkedIn profile, we can actually understand your probability of success for these visas using generative AI. And then we will provide people with direction and guidance on how they can actually improve their profile based on the resources available so that they can actually build a very strong argument. And then we can generate an application based on carefully created prompts based on USCIS guidelines and whatever applications we already know from our database, and then fine-tuning models based on users, their own history, and based on their experience and everything, and then have the lawyer review the application. So it is very important to note that we want to have lawyer actually review the application before it goes to USCIS because it's a pretty sophisticated issue. So all the work, if let's say 100% of the work was the total work that the lawyers and their team was doing right now, we can automate up to 80% of the work which the paralegal was supporting, while 20% of the review work can still be done with the lawyer. So that's kind of main thing what we present in the hackathon. Now talking about how we have been using LlamaIndex. So what we shared is we can index the user's data document. So that's what we are doing using the vector store index. And we are currently using Pinecone and also having the data in our local system. So that's where LlamaIndex can also be very useful. So we found hide query transform much better than semantic search results. So that's also we have been kind of exploring further these days. And some of the new things such as what are the connectors available with the help of LlamaIndex, like Apify actors and all. So we have been exploring. So this is like more about how we have been trying to learn about. We found a lot of features from LlamaIndex very useful for us already, but we still in the early stages and trying to figure out what other features can be useful. And the presentations before this were also very useful for us to learn what can be used. Now, just to give you a demo of how it's working. So this is kind of our current website. This is just a simple website, find your freedom and learn how to put it first, ImmigrantFirst.ai. And any immigrant can go here and kind of like, this is like website and can get an EB assessment from us for free. So you upload your LinkedIn profile and email address and your resume, and then we will have your profile getting evaluated in the backend. So right now we are offering kind of 2 things here. One is for immigrant attorneys who can be the one side, which is like a SaaS model. So immigrant attorneys will have access to our product and they would be able to 10x their business using our product. Basically, the process is going to be they don't need to go on calls with candidates. They don't need to worry about long email conversations. They will start with a pre-filled application and then they can take it to the finish line. So this is like a SaaS product for immigrant lawyers. And the other product is just more of helping immigrants directly so they can do self-filing and other things. So just working on getting their information and getting them to the next stage. So just to give you this is like how the product stays at this point. So someone enters their email address, LinkedIn profile, and resume here, and click on get analysis button. And then this is the initial evaluation for EB1A, where it will categorize your resume or whatever information you provided. into different categories and share about where you have some information and where you don't have information. So like, let's say evidence that you have been asked to judge the work of others, either individually or on a panel. So we retrieve that information about from your resume on what work that you did in the past that is actually going to be relevant in this category, and where you can build a very strong argument with the help of documentation and all. So this is like more of USCIS categories, and this is like something which lawyers will look at and understand if they would be able to position you as an exceptional individual. And all this information can be very useful to build arguments. So as you see, it is kind of like dividing everything into different categories. What category, which part of my resume actually falls in. So this is one part of what we provided as an evaluation. The second part is letter of recommendation generation. So USCIS needs a lot of letters from very high quality people who will say that you are exceptional. And this requires a ton of analysis. So what we did is based on the work that you submitted, you would be able to generate recommendation letters here. And also the lawyer can edit these letters quickly here. So we are working on some of those features. As you can see here, it's talking about a specific letter about my work as a placement coordinator at IIT Kharagpur and some of the other work. And this is later more from a professor's perspective at IIT. Then there could be something about my social initiatives here, which letter can be written and it can be edited here. So this is all using generative AI, and we're using OpenAI GPT-4 for this. So I would say this is like the initial part of what we have been doing, and kind of like just talking to a lot of people about how this is going to help people. So just focusing on helping immigrants and lawyers able to generate high quality petition for their candidates and show that themselves as an exceptional individual. That's pretty much I had for the presentation. Thank you.
Sweet. Thanks, Atal. And a question from the audience is, and this kind of reflects a question I was going to ask you, is, so does this application help to reduce the attorney's work in evaluating a candidate for O1 and other visa types, or more broadly speaking, who is the end user of ImmigrantFirst.ai?
So we are defining it into two different businesses here. And this is like still on the early stage on how the product is going to emerge based on the market demand. But the way I'm looking at right now is lawyers are getting on calls with candidates for 30 minutes. They charge around $300 to $500. And then they provide like, okay, you do have a profile or you don't have a profile. Can we file for you or not? And that's a lot of money. And only very few immigrants are able to even get that evaluation done. So now on the back end, we will have a ton of data about which petitions have been approved and what were kind of the exceptional qualities and how the art, it can be crafted as a story. And lawyer can actually just look at our quick review and say that, yeah, it looks like I would be able to build a strong argument for this candidate. So they don't have to do all the pre-evaluation and all. And we are working with a few lawyers here. And one of the lawyer for whom we did a few evaluations, he suggested that it used to take her like 4.5 hours to actually do this process. And with our product, it only took her 30 minutes to do it. And that is just based on what we did initially. So now I think we would be able to help her with the whole 4 hours of the effort she did.
Oh, so you already tried this out with someone. You already trialed your product.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of lawyers, since I was working on my petition, I was connected with a lot of lawyers and a lot of immigrants to being an immigrant. So I have been like trying to help people in real to actually understand if our product is helping or not. And one of the lawyer, she has given great feedback and have been able to use it.
Awesome. Last question, and I think that we'll wrap up the session, is what tool was used to generate this document, maybe the letter based on, for instance, like the resume, and also how do you avoid hallucination?
So great question. I think it's very important to put a lot of guardrails on the prompts in GPT to actually ensure that it is only pulling information from what is already available in your documentation. Like initially, as I shared, this is just a resume. Some people their resume does not even have information about hackathons they have judged or the awards they have gone, because this is like a more of a job resume. So in those cases, what we are building the chat feature to be able to collect more and more information from that applicant to understand what are the other activities they have done in their life, so that we can have a wider context around each of these things. If you see in my evaluation, it clearly mentioned in a few categories, you do not have any achievement in this area, which is what we want. We don't want chat GPT to be just like saying that, no, you can put something random here and make stuff. So that is like how we are ensuring, with the help of a lot of prompt engineering, and ensuring there is enough context, and also tell directly no if there is nothing, So yeah, that's how we are ensuring.
Sweet, makes a lot of sense. All right, well, to wrap up, thank you, Atal, for your time. And thank you, Kartik and Eduardo, for the earlier presentations. This was a blast. And as mentioned, we'll make this recording available on YouTube for you to watch later if you missed any part of the original recording. All right, thanks, everyone, and have a great Friday.